Jalil, the U.S. men's national team roster drops for the September friendlies. We are edging closer to 2026. Pochettino starting to leave more clues than crumbs about who he likes and why they like them. The roster coming out a little bit less controversial than the Cracker Barrel rebrand. That's for another time, another story. But I do want to pat myself on the back real quick.
Let's go.
You remember back in May, we talked about players who had quietly played, Played, played themselves because of form, because of all the things that go into it, health, technique, all the perfect amalgam of everything you need. Jonathan Klinsmann. I told you, like his name, and let's go ahead and attach it to Sebastian Berhalter. People need to be very, very quiet. Max Breto said this, wonderful guest last episode. You either can or you cannot. And I love that he's gotten this opportunity because let's be real. You and I have been talking for months that the one position that we just don't know who's going to be the guy when it's time to be the guy is the goalkeeper position. So the roster drops Celentano, who is proving to be from youth academy to college to rookie to first team pro, a legit guy. Matt Freese, the incumbent, Jonathan Klinsmann, Chestnut, as they started to chase a promotion there. But the defenders as well, a couple interesting choices there. But if the Gold Cup only let us know who we are starting to use as a core in the defense, and that's Max Arfsten, Alex Freeman, and Chris Richards, then that's a win. Whether or not they beat Mexico in the final, I feel like that clarity is unlocking Pochettino now. No forwards from MLS at all. And Josh Sargent, Tim Weas, and Dejas, Christian Pulisic, it's back, and Damian Down. So I thought that was interesting too. Bournemouth, Tyler Adams is the only foreign midfielder. So it's an interesting roster just in terms of leagues and where people are playing. So this roster comes out, Japan, South Korea, early September. Great time to start really supporting this team.
I think that it's interesting because it's clearly not going to be the World Cup roster. There are certain players that we could probably guess will be on the World Cup roster through consistency of call-ups, but there are some notable names that aren't in this group. I want to talk about, first of all, the ones that I like to see consistently getting called in as of late. You mentioned a couple of them, and I'm going to start with the outside backs and Max Arfsten and Alex Freeman. And for me, you've been able to see more specifically in Alex Freeman how the confidence of his play with the national team is permeating into excellent play with Oscar Pareja and everything that Orlando City is doing. And the reason why I say more specifically with him is because Max Arfsten's been doing it at a pretty high level for over a year and a half now.
Good
right?
point.
So he's just been proven to be a top level player in MLS and for the national team now. What I want to see from the homie Max, of course, is to continue to improve as a defender. What he can do on the offensive side is already that's box checked. Now he needs to kind of match some of the more true natural defenders, whether they're central defenders or outside backs, in terms of solidifying that part of his game. It's very, very clear that Pochettino sees Tim Ream as the leader of this group. And a lot of people have their concerns about that because of his age. But you do need guys that are very experienced. Of course, Christian Pulisic being back in the group is a very good sign because people have been wanting him to be there. He's here now. His play is now going to be what will set the headlines from here on out. So I'll stop there. I think there's a lot to unpackage.
Yes.
It's interesting that you don't see your Weston McKennies and your Musas there, but at the end, for me, I'm always way more concerned with the football itself than the headlines that don't have anything to do with the football. So I'm really looking forward to the games that are on the horizon.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because when I think about Tim Ream and to get really granular and being a part of a World Cup cycle, these are the questions that people are asking in the coaches' room. Who can play one of three group games for us? And that would be the question I'd be asking if you know you're gonna start Tim Ream,
Yeah.
right? Can you play him 3 times in that short window in group phase and then expect him to be ready? Or can you find a way to have him be in the game and in the matches for the 2 games? And obviously, this is draw dependent, but ideally, there's a third center back, right? Who gets to start, who fills the gap, right? And World Cup rosters are littered with guys who 1 game played 64 minutes, right? 2 game
Mhm.
plays 38 minutes, and that's how you have to start breaking down this roster is who can we plug and play? And I agree with you that Ream and Richards, but Ream is going to be a year older no matter how well he's playing. What you hope though is like a Sergiño Dest kind of comes back into a phase of where he's almost, he's not just attacking, he's adding, right? He's a problem for the other team. And the more he's bombing forward, the less he's actually got to defend. But here's the thing, you do have to defend. Like, you will be exposed. Good teams are under a lot of pressure, and at some point you just have to be resilient and defend. So, I think the roster is what it is, right? We don't know all the different decisions that go into when people get called up, but certainly, I'm sure I'm sure CP is going to have to be ready for the same question 100 different times or 1,000 times, and the only thing he can do is just perform at a high level and just keep playing and carry this team forward for sure. But a couple of really good tests. South Korea and Japan are very good teams. These are teams that are over here to get a feel for next year, to be in the States competing and doing those things, get used to the different idiosyncrasies and things like that. So very, very good scheduling by US Soccer, the type of opponents I think you want for sure. But we'll see how they do. Obviously, Diego Luna, I think, is someone that is starting to um, color in his place into the team. It really seems like him and Pochettino have a bond, and then happy for him. And we hope that he can continue to shine and be in that position for sure. So, but interesting roster. It'll be interesting to see how it all comes together. But we'll be supporting this team as they really, really begin the countdown along the way. What's your expectation for this U.S. men's national team here in September? We talked about the interesting roster last week, but South Korea, Japan. What is the most reasonable sort of we're moving and making progress to what we need to do next summer from these 2 matches?
Continue to build the product on the field, continue to give Pochettino things to be, I guess, inspired by, and of course the fans as well. Um, Gold Cup was dramatic. I hope the dramatics play into our favor now. I hope that it's dramatic on the field
Mhm.
in terms of inspirational wins or inspirational results or an inspirational collective approaches to these friendlies. They're playing in venues and places that are very familiar to historic triumphs in U.S. soccer history. Columbus is always going to be the home of where
Dos
the U.S.
Salcedo.
men's where the
Yep.
U.S. men's national team gets a lot of their vibe, right? A lot of their don't you can't mess with us type of energy. So that is what I'm looking forward to seeing, and what I want is for us to continue to see players to um progress in ways where they become more and more crystallized in our minds that they
Yes.
should be World Cup
Yes. Well
players.
said. I agree. I agree.
There are always surprises. There are always people that are heartbroken by players that either make or don't make the roster. That's life. That is going to be part of it. But what I want to see is like, oh, that dude right there had a dope ass Gold Cup.
Yep.
They got called in again, and
Yes.
they better be on the World Cup team, because for me, that's my starting whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and it's nice to see. Balogun back in the fold. I'm expecting a lot from Tim Weah, of course. CP. There's many names. Matt Freese, I hope that he does his thing, because by and large I liked what I saw from him throughout Gold
Yep.
Cup, and we need whoever is going to be our starting goalkeeper to be one that gives us a lot of calm as we move forward.
Yeah, for me, that's going to be the most difficult position for Pochettino, I think, to really instill the confidence in, is that role, is who's going to be our goalkeeper, because all the confidence really starts from there, to say the least. But obviously you want everyone to come out healthy. But I definitely think this roster, in terms of certain aspects, and we don't know what the coaching staff is really looking at. They could be shaping certain combinations and they could be working on certain things. But like I said, the health will be a big part of it. We want to see Jedi Robinson get healthy and at some point be a factor in call-ups, because we want to see what that back line looks like with him and Chris Richards, who's emerged as a leader as well. Can Alex Freeman and Max Arfsten, can they make that jump in terms of being those reliable outside backs? So, and obviously for me, it's who's going to be the 9. And you and I have talked about this ad nauseum about who's going to be the Jefe up there, who's going to be the person we can point to. Patrick Agyemang has been slowed by an injury since his move to Derby. So, the boils off him a bit, as they say, but we'll see. Only these matches will determine who continues to sort of play on. I think it's more about playing yourself out than it is playing yourself in, because I already think the players that are on the bubble already know those things as well. So fascinating. A couple of good matches against South Korea and Japan. 2 teams have already qualified for 26, so they're both going to be eager, those countries, to use this as an important dress rehearsal for 2026, to say the least.
Take a look, I'm shining. Moonwalk, keep both feet gliding. I'm up now, great timing. When I was down, was you riding for me? When I was down, was you riding for me? Was you riding for me?